Hey everybody, welcome to part 3 of a countdown of the top 12 Dr. Seuss specials. Now for number 5, we have the Butter Battle book. Oh boy. Airing November 13th, 1989, directed by Ralph Bakshi. Yeah, you heard me right, Ralph Bakshi. The same guy who brought us Fritz the Cat, Cool World, let's see, what other ones? Crap. I really don't know that much about Ralph Bakshi's work other than those two. Well, anyway, the Barbell book was the second and to last of Dr. Seuss's specials was to air on TV. And as I said in the last video, in the second season of Green Eggs and Ham, it was tied in with the Butterbell book. And this one has a bit of a theme to it that's actually not so subtle, the more you think about it. The story is about two nations who are constantly at war with one another due to the way they spread and they're bred. On one side, we have the Ukes, dressed in blue, who spread and they're bred butter side up. On the opposite side of the wall, we have the Zooks, who are dressed in orange and eat their bread butter side down. Now, the conflict starts when the Wall Patrol gets harassed by one of the Zooks who shoots his switch to pieces. When the defeated Uke returns to their town's general, he's given a promotion as well as a new weapon. And which is essentially a giant slingshot. When he returns to the wall, the Zook flees. And everything seems to go by pretty well until the next day. Anyway, yeah, everything seems to go going fine until the next day when the same Zook returns, but with a better weapon. And that will take whatever the Uke throws at him back. And if you haven't already guessed it, and part of the story is one side trying to one-up the other. After the whole slingshot debacle, the Uke officer is given a new weapon, and that's toted by a trained dog to fire some sort of missile at them. But when they get to the wall, they are forced to turn around and retreat because the Zook comes back with a triple elephant mounted cannon of sorts. And the Uke returns to the general. He's promoted again. And is given a chance to pilot an airship. By the way, I love the design of this thing. I know they say it's supposed to be like some sort of airship, but it's on freaking legs. And even the chief himself says they don't even know half the things it can do. But what it can do is spray blue goop all over the Zooks. There's a little bit of a patriotic song on that plays as our hero, Earl pilot, lets his machine into the wall. Only they come face to face as with the Zook of piloting in their version. When all else seems to fail, our protagonist returns back to headquarters, there's in defeat, and is given a weapon that may not seem much at first, but when you think about it, it is the most dangerous thing imaginable. The creation and scene sequence of this particular device called the, let me see if I can remember what it's called. Big Boy Boomeroo, that's it. Which at first looks like a little baked bean, or jelly bean or whatever. It is until you hear the lyrics next to the song. And it turns out that this small thing is basically the equivalent of a nuclear bomb. And our protagonist marches back to the wall in order to drop it off on the Zooks. He spots his grandson hiding in the bushes, and instead of having him run away like he should, he has his grandson stay in order to witness his history be in the making. That is, until we see the Zook with his own Big Boy Boomeroo. So now Yook and Zook are in stalemate, and then who's going to drop their bomb first? And the special event ends on a cliff note with the end ? Now, I'm not going to sugarcoat this for anybody. This is pretty much a reference to what was going on during the Cold War, when the U.S. and Russia were competing against each other on who had the better technology. And yeah, there are very subtle hints as to which side's which. The Yooks are supposed to represent the U.S., while the Zooks are supposed to represent Russia. Yeah, as I said before, there's no way of sugarcoating it. This one was actually kind of hard for me to talk about in a way, because something about it does not sit right with me at all. And the fact that Dr. Seuss made this is kind of disturbing. Next, we have number 4. Wait. No. Wait, I take that back. This is number 3. I'm sorry. In number 3, we have The Cat in the Hat. Now, we've all heard about this one. And it's a classic in children's literature. Our 2 bored kids are home alone when their mother's out. And their house is invaded by a 6-foot-tall, anthropomorphic cat wearing a red and white striped hat, and entices them to have loads of fun. And it is until the house becomes a mess, and everything needs to be quickly cleaned up before the children's mother gets home. Yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it. But the way that the special carries out is kind of interesting. And I like this special because it shows how comedic like the Cat in the Hat can be. Not only that, but I actually learned some new international words for certain and phrases like I now know the German and French. Yeah, I now know the German and French way of saying Cat in the Hat. And I have to point this out too. There's a certain voice in this special that's been featured in numerous other Dr. Seuss specials, as many of you might have picked up if you've ever seen these. But I'll get to that at a later entry. Oh, wait, yeah, this is number 4. I'm sorry. I must have miscounted. Now, I know what you're all thinking, and yes, I have to bring up the Mike Myers or his live action adaptation of Cat in the Hat. I know people are iffy about it. I know people find that one cringy. In a way, I kind of as well now looking back. But I have to ask, how can they screw up such a lovable story? I don't know. I honestly don't know. But hey, at least Dakota Fanning started in her film career, or in this. Plus, we got to see Alec Baldwin again, as well as Mike Myers acting in a role that's not Shrek or Austin Powers. Now, on to number 3. The actual number 3. I'm sorry. I know a lot of you are going to hate me for this, but at number 3, it's How the Grinch Stole Christmas, the first and original Dr. Seuss special. Airing December 18th, 1966, animated by Chuck Jones, as well as directed by Chuck Jones. Again, I am sorry for putting the Grinch, like this version of the Grinch, that's at only number 3. You're probably all watching it as going down in the comment section and thinking the same thing. Oh, why is the Grinch? That's at number 3. Why isn't it at number 1 and on number 2? Oh, I'll explain. And yes, this is a classic Christmas special. Yes, everybody has grown up either hearing the story from the book, seen the movies, or seen the special itself. But the reason why I put it at number 3 is because there are certain things with it that need to be addressed. That a lot of you might agree with me and might not agree with me about. Anyway, let's get this out of the way. The story is narrated, and interestingly enough, by Boris Karloff, who many of us actually remember as the original Universal version of the Frankenstein monster. A horror movie icon and narrating a children's story. Oh well. Oh, I actually like this one, and quite a bit. I've heard the soundtrack retelling of the story, as well as One Hears Who. And this one's and got a lot going for it. By that, I mean the animation is top notch for its time. And like with Horny Years of Who, you can definitely tell this was made by Chuck Jones. That's with the facial expressions. And speaking of facial expressions, this is where the titular Grinch face meme comes from. If you don't know what I mean, let me look it up real quick. Yeah. Shoot! No! Crap! I don't know if this will focus right, but yeah, this is pretty much the face I'm talking about. Oh, that Grinch face. And ever since that special came out, nowadays I've seen that face quite a bit in media. Like, like for example, Jim Carrey, who portrayed the Grinch in the Ron Howard live action version, and does that face like 5 minutes into the movie, which kind of bums me out. I was hoping, and he would pull that face during the idea bit. But I've seen this face it's in other forms. Like I've seen it and on the Fairly Odd Parents, in the episode where Vicky becomes nice again, and after Timmy saves her life. Again, I don't know why that looks so odd and creepy at the same time. The Amazing World of Gumball has 2 instances of this. There's one where Nicole does it in the vase. And I want to show it so bad. You know what? I'm gonna show. Oh, give me just a quick second here. Just give me a quick second here. It is worth the wait. Oops, let me do that. Shoot! No! Crap. Okay, let me see if I can get this a little closer. And yoink!
But children are allowed to have that kind of accident.
Oh, no! Shut off. Anyway, that's, well, one incident. of the Grinch face on Gumball. The second is from The Lie, where Miss Simeon does it, and she does it at almost as well as the original. Oh, but yeah, I've seen that Grinch face meme so many times. As soon as I see it, I'm like, ooh. Ooh, I see an evil thought going through their head. But anyway, along with Boris Karloff voicing in this special, June Foray is also in it. And it's Cindy Lou Who. Now, again, we've all seen this special. Oh, we've seen the movies. I really don't have to say much about the Jim Carrey version or the Illumination version. Or do I really need to say anything about the mean one? The horror movie version? Well, that one I can't really say anything about because I haven't even seen it yet. All I know is that from what I've seen, I gotta check it out. But yeah, the Grinch has been, but since this special was incredibly popular, it's been referenced so many times in many different styles. South Park has a reference to it. The Simpsons have a reference to it. Family Guy has a reference to it. And Fairly Odd Parents and The Amazing World of Gumball, I've said before, make a reference to it. There's really not much else I could say. Now, I have seen Matt Pat do a theory video on this special. I'm not gonna say it. I'll point that out there. Now, on to number 2. And again, this one's technically not as special as it is somewhat of a documentary, but it's definitely worth talking about. And that is In Search of Dr. Seuss. It was first aired on TNT on November 6th, 1994. This somewhat documentary pretty much showcases the life and history of Dr. Seuss. It was in a sort of whimsical style. A news reporter comes across the home of Dr. Seuss, where she's instantly met by the Cat in the Hat, who tries to shoo her away, but she ends up convincing him to help her with her report. Throughout a majority of the picture, the reporter actually gets to encounter certain Dr. Seuss characters, like Mr. Hunch from Hunches and Bunches let's see here. Marco and Sergeant Mulvaney from I Saw It on Mulberry Street. She sees Ural the turtle in his court of turtles. Sam I Am, a Who from Whoville, who tells her the story of how the Grinch stole Christmas. This and quite a lot of others. There's the cast for This is what, and is definitely interesting and worth watching. And the Cat in the Hat is portrayed by Matt Frewer, who is the voice of Pain in from Hercules, and has also been featured in Sylvania. Frank Welker dubs the voice in their telling of Horn and Hatches the Egg. Andrea Martin portrays an ad woman, and talking about how Dr. Seuss's involvement in advertisement before he became a writer. Patrick Stewart as Sergeant Mulvaney. Billy Crystal voices a radio called The Voice of America, as he tells the reporter about Geisel's involvement during World War II. Oh, and by the way, I gotta point this out as well. During the events of World War II, Dr. Seuss not only did an animation strips, like comics, X for World War II propaganda, but he also was responsible for creating for the Army a private snafu, along with the people of Looney Tunes fame like Mel Blanc, and Fritz Freeling. And Seuss actually produced these little shorts for the U.S. Army. But anyway, back to the cast. Telling the story of the Cat in the Hat, we have Robin Williams and also his own daughter, Zelda. And during the segment of Green Eggs and Ham, we have Howie Mandel voicing Sam I Am. And if you've grown up during the 90s, you've probably heard the same voice that Howie Mandel gives Sam as the same voice as when he portrays Bobby from Bobby's World. Excuse me. Let's see, who else is in here? There's some uncredited ones. But anyway, the somewhat special continues until the reporter gets all the information she needs. And that's kind of where it ends. Now, before I move on to number one, or at least the honorable mention, and I want to point out that In Search of Dr. Seuss contains the following stories: The Sneetches, Horton Hatches the Egg, The Cat in the Hat, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, that's Green Eggs and Ham, Yertle the Turtle, the Butter Battle Book, The Lorax, and even a short film that Geisel himself produced, which as a way to combat against Nazi Germany, called Hitler's America. Now, on to the honorable mention, which is Seussical the Musical. Again, technically it's cheating as it's not a special, but rather a Broadway production. But it's worth mentioning as it ties in a lot of stories together, such as most importantly, Horton hears a who, Horton hatches the egg. And, which other one? Oh yeah, Gertrude McFuzz. And I believe that's it. They make references to other, or Dr. Seuss, those stories like the Bell book, Green Eggs and Ham, and then How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Oh, shit. I almost forgot. There was even been a musical version and based on the How the Grinch Stole Christmas special. I almost forgot about that one. And now, on to number one, which is, if you haven't guessed by now, the Lorax. This special deserves the number one spot, basically because of its theme on environmentalism and protection of our world's ecology. In the original special, it's narrated by its antagonist, the Onceler, who one day he travels to this forest region where the trees are topped with this cotton candy substance, and it's that it's softer than silk. He chops down on one tree after building his shop, whereupon he summons the guardian of the forest, the Lorax. After making his first need, the Lorax berates him and chastises him for cutting down his tree. When the monster reassures him that he's only cut one down, he hasn't done much harm. As soon as this thief sells and becomes popular, he starts cutting down more trees. But as business becomes too much for one and the Onceler alone, he begins calling up his family to help him out. And before you know it, the entire Onceler clan is busy chopping down trees and making needs. It's much to the chagrin of the Lorax, who after a while decides to go over the Onceler himself in order to get him to stop. And the first time he confronts the Onceler in order to get him to stop hopping down on trees, he tells him that chopping the trees down will limit the food source for the forest population of barbaloots, which are bear-like creatures that feed on the fruit of the truffula trees. And with no truffula tree and no truffula fruit, the barbaloots have no other choice but to migrate somewhere else. The Onceler is given a chance to think things over, and he debates with himself of coming to the conclusion that if he didn't start this, then somebody else would have. So this continues on and on until the Onceler, till the Lorax returns and is to reprimand the Onceler, telling him that his factory is making so much smog and smoke that the swan birds can hardly sing, they can hardly breathe, either fly. And because of that, they're forced, like the barbaloots, to migrate into a new location, which in a way is kind of sad. And the Onceler tells the Lorax that he'll think things over, which has roused up the Lorax, telling the ones are that he's had time to think things over. And he shows him one last thing. Because his factory is run nonstop, they produce sewage and products which pretty much pollute the ponds and rivers where the hummingfish live. And because the hummingfish can't survive where there's pollution, they too decide to migrate somewhere else. When the sort of realizes that the wildlife has been heavily affected by what he's done, and he apologizes to the Lorax, and just before he says he'll shut down the factory for good, his secretary calls him on the line, telling him that ethnic stocks are way up, which gets him overconfident and boasts that he'll keep making his factories bigger and bigger, cutting down more trees to make more needs, and that nothing is going to stop him. That is until he and the Lorax the last of the trees fall. And unfortunately, with no more trees, there are no more needs. And with no more needs, his family only decide to pack up and go, leaving him all alone. With him and the Lorax all alone, with a big empty factory, the Lorax doesn't say a single word to him, just looks back at him and heists himself up into the sky, never to be seen again. The only thing he leaves behind is a ring of rocks with one word, unless. And this is an actual quote from Dr. Seuss himself. Unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, it's never going to get better. It's not. This pertains to protecting our Mother Earth, cutting down pollution, and then saving forests. Now, I know what you're all thinking. Yes, there is an Illumination film based on this special, starring Danny DeVito. It's the Lorax. I have seen that, and they actually get the message a lot better. Except in the film, instead of the wildlife leaving one species at a time, all three species leave at once. That's near the end of the film, which kind of doesn't make sense, because according to the original story, each species left separately. And that's it for the top 12 of Dr. Seuss specials, including one animated short, one Broadway show, as well as one documentary. Now, again, I could have done this around Dr. Seuss's birthday, but I've been incredibly busy with work as well as a lot of other stuff, so I haven't had a chance to. I do plan on making more videos in the future, but in the meantime, and things might be going in one way or another for me. I'm still working. I still have stuff around on the house to deal with. But I'll try my best to make more videos in the future. Or if any of you have any suggestions on what lists I can do or reactions I can do, please let me know in the comment section down below. Other than that, hit the like button and click subscribe, and I will see you all on in later videos. Bye.